All right. Welcome everyone to this FinEquity conversation on deconstructing the monolith, segmentation of women clients. My name is Nisha Singh, and I am the lead for gender transformative solutions for FinEquity. It's great to see so many of you join, lots of familiar names and some new ones too. So we are very excited to be hosting this conversation with Lara from BBVA Microfinance Foundation. Before I get started with the formal part of this discussion, we're going to keep this short. As you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Just to give you some context, this series of conversation, the motivation comes from this idea that even though there's now a lot of talk in financial inclusion about designing products and services for women, how do we move away from this idea of that, women make up half of the population of the world, but so we're not just a niche segment. Women have differentiated needs based on, their life stage, geography, other factors, and we need to take those into account when designing services and products for women. Otherwise, the products are often not relevant and not used, and the gender gap in financial inclusion continues to persist. The other thing that we often hear is that in some of our conversations, we talk about what providers should be doing. So we decided maybe we should talk to providers who have already started to figure this out and hear how they're doing it. So that was the genesis of this series. Bamsi, if you can move to the next slide, please. So we're talking today to Lara Fernandez Lord. She's the head of Women's Economic Empowerment at the BBVA Microfinance Foundation. And we'll hear from her about the work they've supported with their affiliates in 4 countries in Latin America, and some really interesting products. And we'll pull the curtain back a little and go into how they arrived at these products, how they're performing, and then if you have specific questions about how, the products in itself, or arriving at those products by understanding women's needs better, then we'll tackle those as well. So I'm going to now invite Laura to introduce herself. Laura.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon to all of you. It is a pleasure to be talking to you today about women's financial inclusion and segmentation with Nisha. Thank you so much for inviting us. My name is Laura Fernández, and I'm the head of Women's Economic Empowerment at BBVA Microfinance Foundation. And maybe let me introduce you very quickly what the foundation is and what we do. So maybe we can move to the next slide. The foundation is next one, please. The next one, please. Yeah, the foundation is a nonprofit created in 2007 by BBVA as part of its CSR to promote sustainable development of vulnerable people with productive activities. We carry out, as Nisha mentioned, our work through a group of 6 microfinance institutions in 5 Latin American countries, who currently serve more than 2.6 million vulnerable entrepreneurs, and almost 60% of them are women. So we are serving 1.5 million female entrepreneurs at the moment, and we know they are more vulnerable, next slide, in terms of income compared to our male entrepreneurs. And they face 10 percentage point gender gaps, for instance, in poverty rates. Next slide. They're mostly urban, almost half of them are heads of household, and they're mainly retailers. And we also know through our social performance reports, year after years, we see that despite the initial gaps that we see in their disbursements, in their initial sales surpluses and assets of their businesses, they're able of overcoming their initial poverty levels at higher rates than when compared to male entrepreneurs. And for us, serving female entrepreneurs, it's clear to invest, to make an investment in the future and for sustainable development, since we know that they're true cornerstones of a country's development. So since we are aware of the gaps that they face, the social, economic, and the financial gaps that their micro businesses have, we have decided to develop a full-fledged women's economic empowerment strategy based on 3 pillars. And the first of them is to create a specific value proposition, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. The other 2 are to work also internally on internal equity and gender intelligence, and also advocacy and alliances with other institutions. So in the next slide, you will see that when we started working in a specific value proposition tailored to women's need, we had already some products specifically for women, but what we tried to do is to make them full-fledged and across all the microfinance institutions of the group. And basically what we're trying to achieve is to have a value proposition that covers the 3 main needs that we consider women have. The one is need for economic independence. The second one would be the need for self-confidence, and the third one would be the need for belonging. And this is why we're working in these 3 aspects through the development of financial products such as group lending, program savings, health coverages that we will see today, but also educational loans for their kids, housing reparation credits, agricultural loans specifically for rural women. And we also build partnerships to expand non-financial services and bring in new opportunities for their businesses with trainings and access to also to networks. So for us, like, this is like the 3 axes that we work on. And also I wanted to mention that for us, it is essential to have sex disaggregated data in our social performance indicators. So we are monitoring every quarterly and annually how they are performing, how are they are, what is their social characteristics, what are their vulnerability levels, in which sectors are their activities on, so we can develop specific products based on this information, and we can assess how they are performing over time.
Thanks, Laura. So, I really wanted, when we talked, I found this idea of that your focus on developing products and services adapted to women's life cycle needs, really intriguing, because we don't often hear that. And maybe, to start off this discussion, if you could talk a little bit about some of the products that we've discussed that, are really interesting, that understand that women at different points and in different contexts have very specific needs, and we need to respond to them.
Yes, for sure. You're completely right, Nisha. And that's why in the last few years, we have been innovating in our value proposition with new products and services to cover the needs of our female entrepreneurs. Maybe we can move to the next slide, please. Next one. Well, so one of the products that which I think it's pretty innovative, or we are very proud of, at least, is that we have recently launched these health coverages in Colombia, in Banca Mia, in our institution there, and Microfinance in Panama. And this is because we know that social protection is one of the things that women are lacking in the region, especially for those who are in informality and are more vulnerable. So we thought that we needed to do something about this and try to cover these needs that they have. You have to think that in the region, 21% do not use healthcare because of geographical barriers. and 30% do not use it because of economic reasons. And also 60% of the women of the region work in informality. So they have no access at all to social protection. And we started thinking with a base-led study, exploring the different needs that rural and urban women had in access to health services when defining the product, so we could really take into consideration the different circumstances that they were in. Then what we did is that we contacted different insurance companies to create a specific health coverage product for vulnerable women, and in the end we arrived to what you're seeing on the screen, that we developed 3 different types of products, 2 for urban women. One is family coverage, and the other one is exclusive for women, which is basically the first one, but with other additions, like cytologies or mammograms, and gynecological medications. And also in rural areas, well, there the difficulty is to have access to doctors because of the geographical barriers and the dispersion of the population. So there we went for the phone assistances, and we have, these are health assistances or coverages, but we also combine them with legal, psychological, pediatric, and even agricultural technical assistance. So this is one of the products which I think it's quite interesting, and that we just recently launched, like in Microsoft it was at the end of 2019, and in Bancami it was last year in the middle of the pandemic. And then we have also some other types of products, like next slide please, like cancer microinsurance that we have worked on. And this was because in Peru they started looking at mortality rates of female, and they saw that one of the major causes was breast and uterine cancer. So they thought of offering a specific product for a vulnerable woman that they were already serving with Palabra de Mujer. Palabra de Mujer is the group lending product for very vulnerable women who usually live in the urban outskirts, and they are usually young women between 20, 30 years old. So we define this product that covers natural and accidental death, incapacity due to illness and accident with a lump sum. And also it has also other additional coverages, like the payment of the principal of the loan in case of death, and compensations in case of uterine cancer, and a family basket coverage and funeral expenses, which is something pretty relevant in this for these women. It is currently offered for 45,000 to 45,000 women in Peru. It's combined. It's tied to the group lending. So every woman that, or every new woman that buys or enters in the group banking product will get this microinsurance immediately. So this is another type of health product that we have innovated, thinking of how protecting women's health and offering them more coverages against the situations that they could encounter with breast or uterine cancer. And we have done this as well. In the next slide, you will see in Colombia, with something very, very similar. And it has also some additional coverage, like surgery in case of breast cancer, and also a lump sum that goes up to $5,000 or a little more than $5,000, depending on the selected plan. And it has no grace period. And these are products that are interesting also because we try to make them very affordable. even in the baseline studies, we had like some results that women were willing to pay more than the actual cost of the product that we managed to negotiate with the insurance company. So these are products that are between 50 cents of a dollar per month and $2. So because we think that every dollar counts in this for these vulnerable women, and this was something that we really worked on, so to make it so affordable. And finally, the last one that I wanted to share with you today is Agromujer in Adopen in Dominican. This is our institution in Dominican Republic. It is a microfinance institution where 60% of our total clients are women. And this was developed several years ago, and we really were interested in working something to promote agricultural loans in women who didn't have land property, because we realized that was one obstacle towards financial inclusion of these small female farmers or agricultural producers in the country. So we developed this product that doesn't require land ownership, and we also make it that adaptable to or linked to the production cycle of their activities. So the payment installments are done according to the production cycle of the activity of the entrepreneur. And with the years, we have seen how they have increased, women have increased their participation in this kind of products in rural areas in the entity as well. So these are the three different types of products that we have developed. We have more, but I thought that these were interesting. So this is what I wanted to bring in today, Nisha.
Great, thank you. So that's a great way to introduce everyone to the products. I think the focus of this is, okay, so how do we design for women, and how do we understand their needs? So could you talk a little bit about how the concepts for these products came about, what kind of research you did, with your partners,
yeah.
and what was interesting about that research? What did it uncover?
Yes, so in the next slide, you will see how we went for the health coverages baseline studies, and we had different needs in the different countries, and also there were differences between urban and rural women. So in Panama, for instance, 28% of the urban women did not go for medical checkups, and only 16% had private health plans. And when we checked for their interest in a product like this, we found out that 90% were interested in the coverages of health checkups, cytologies, mammograms, and also ambulance services. And in rural areas, the situation is different. They use much more public services, public health services, because of the lack of alternatives in these areas. And we also found that 61% of the rural women usually pay a specialist when they have some problems or some doubts or need some advice in terms of agricultural or pest management. They usually pay for someone to come and check. And they also get advice, 40% of them get advice where they buy the supplies for their activities. So 77% were interested in agricultural assistance and pest management, and this is why we decided to include it in the product. We thought it was very relevant for them to have, not only have the health checkups or home doctors, because also many of them, when they have some doubts, they just go to the emergency room. They go to the hospital instead of maybe having a consultation with a doctor. So this is what also why we try to offer in the designing the product, this medical phone assistances where they can call instead of going straight to the hospital. And in Colombia, the situation is different. In the urban areas, 40% of the women we consulted had already health coverage. And in case of emergency, they usually use their own means of transportation. They don't call an ambulance because it's very expensive. So they were interested in having coverages as an ambulance service. And 60% usually go for health checkups more than once a year. So that wasn't so relevant for them. They were very interested in ambulance, in home doctor, and also in preventive checkups. And in the rural areas, what we found, it was a completely different situation, because there only 17% had health coverage. And what I mentioned, like when they have some doubts, some medical doubts, they go straight to the hospital. So this is why they had a high interest in phone medical assistance, also in health checkups. We have also medical fairs. So usually there is like a small van that goes to these rural areas every so often, and they get like checkups on site. And also what I was mentioning, and it's similar to the situation in Panama, they were very interested in agricultural phone assistance and pest management advice. Almost 60% of the consultants were interested in these kinds of coverages that we were designing. And in urban areas, only 40%, but this is also because in urban areas, the health coverages were much more extended than in the rural ones. So this is to say that you really need to check, your clients, and the needs are different, of course, whether they are in urban or rural areas, and also they're different whether they are into agricultural activities or other type of activities. So you need to get all this information, all this background, and also make insurance companies to understand the needs, the exact needs of your clients, so they don't get anything else they're not going to use, no? So this is how we got the information, and we decided to create these different coverages that I showed you before.
Great. So Laura, before we go into my next question, we're getting a couple of questions around, insurance is often a hard sell for low-income populations and vulnerable women, especially. There needs to be awareness, and also as a concept, it's just sometimes if you're not used to it, it's hard to grasp. I just saw another question about trust in insurance products. So how did you factor that into your research process and then even the product design?
Yeah, well, for us, what is fundamental is to train our bank agents. In our model of microfinance, there is a very close relationship between the bank agent and the client. So whenever we launch a new product, we really make huge efforts in training our bank agents, so they can also show the benefits of hiring an insurance product like the one I was talking before. So yes, I mean it's very hard. It's hard to have this kind of financial education in vulnerable women that make them aware of how microinsurance can protect them and also can protect their families, because something that we had also in mind was to create microinsurance that had coverages for their kids and for their parents, because what we find in the region is that these are large households or extended households where there are several generations living in the same house. So this is why we thought that offering also pediatric phone assistance or geriatric phone assistant would be of interest. So we made an effort in explaining also the coverages, the full coverages, not only for them, but also for the benefits for their families. So because we thought that in this way, probably the chances of them having this type of products were higher. And indeed, our results, and we will talk about this later, show this, that women actually bought more the health coverages that included their families than the ones that had extended coverages for themselves. But yes, I mean it's a matter of financial education and client sensitization, and I think that the key is to work very closely with bank agents, and also not only once but repeatedly, so they remind these women all the coverages they have included. So for instance, when they go to a branch to pay their loan, that to remind them that they have to make the appointment, or they can make the appointment with the doctors or the specialist, or have a blood test or a mammogram, because they are covered and they have that service already contracted or hired.
Great, thanks. And the other big question we're getting, because we're talking about segmenting, so the big broad categories of rural versus urban is used very often, but it's about, okay, how do you go beyond that to really, you mentioned a little bit that you need to understand women who are in agriculture or in other sectors, what is their family situation in terms of multi-generational households or nuclear families. Were there any other sort of specific things that you uncovered in the research process in terms of how do you sub-segment and really hone in on developing a value proposition that responds to specific needs?
Yes, for this product, we went for rural urban, which is very straightforward.
Yeah.
Of course, like then in the rural areas, you have so many different activities. Like many times, I always say that rural women doesn't mean that they are farmers or they are producers. Many of the rural women that we serve are into retail, like most of them are into retail. So many times we have assumptions that when we design, or we are as financial service providers, we have assumptions of rural and urban that sometimes aren't that that black and white. That there are lots of grays in between. But we are evolving these products. I mean, these are new products. We are thinking right now. We are thinking, for instance, to include COVID or pandemic coverages. And I think also that something that was interesting is that we were thinking of women all the time to design these products, but then it turned out that in the case of Panama, those who hire the most or this product or contract more this product were men. So when you're segmenting, you might be thinking of a target group, and then the reality maybe shows you, something different. And even when you design for women, it shows that you're not, you're not excluding men, and indeed they're the ones who might be hiring more these kinds of products. But yeah, I mean, for sure, we need to move forward and think different needs and different segments. I mean, this is the theme of the webinar, to go beyond the monolith. We tend to think of women many times as blocks, as if we were all homogeneous, and it's not like this. And also, I think that we keep in mind, and we're evolving our value proposition, and we're thinking also to offer, in the case of microinsurances which are adapted to the life cycle of the woman. So we are thinking also of health insurances that protect maternity and especially during lactation. So even if the lactation periods legally in Latin America aren't as large as in some other countries, we think that it's interesting to offer some kind of coverage. So our entrepreneurs might enjoy the lactation period with their babies, instead of taking the babies to work and having their economic activity running as usual, when they have had this vital moment in their lives. So this is just to say that yes, that we begin maybe by rural urban, but we keep in mind evolving these types of products for other groups of women, like mothers, like maybe also migrants, and also defining different services, products and services, depending on the economic activity of the women.
Great. And it appears that the fact that you collect all this data regularly gives you a better insight into, you have the information because you are constantly talking to and trying to understand the needs of the clients. So I think, a data-driven approach is, of course, very essential. I wanted to pick up on what you said about, the point about in Panama, you have more men using the product. And so your assumption was you were designing for women, and this was something, women want to take care of their families. Were there other such assumptions that, you went into the research with that were either proved wrong or something surprising that you found in the process of doing the research?
Yes, actually there was, when we were defining this health and legal and psychological coverage product. We were talking to the insurance company, and they had a product already defined for another segment of women, and they offered a hairdresser service. And we thought that made no sense, that our female clients wouldn't be interested in a hairdresser, and especially in the rural areas. And when we did the focus group, it turned out that they were interested in having a hairdresser coverage, so they could go under their insurance. So yes, I mean, sometimes you have previous assumptions and or biases, and then when you check and you go for the focus groups, it turns that you're wrong, and that you need to include it because they're demanding it or they're asking for it. Also, we thought that women would be very interested in this women coverage. I don't know if we can go like some slides back to the coverage, to the insurances, to the where we had the three types of insurances. you have there the complete women coverages that included cytology, mammograms, and gynecological medications. And we thought that there would be a high demand for this type of insurance, which was more expensive, but still it's like, well, 20 cents more than the complete family coverage. And our results show that they were buying more complete family coverage than the women coverage. So family, it's top of the list, and even if you design specifically for them, the families always prevails. No, family interest always prevails. Also, like we have some insurances. If we can go forward in the presentation, in the slides, in Colombia, we have another. It's more something. Some more slides ahead. Sorry. Yes, go ahead. In Colombia, we have here. In Colombia, we have this protected handbag micro insurance, which covers the content of bag against thefts, the wallet, the documents, key, cash, also accidental health, death, and incapacity. And it is the highest demanded insurance product by women in Banca Mía, in our entity in Colombia, more than the urban and rural women health coverages. So this is also something that was interesting and surprising for us, because in our assumptions, we would think that health will go above, or would be much more of a priority than insuring your handbag, but it wasn't like this, and it turns out, as you see the figures on the left, that there are 42,000 women who have this product, and this is also because many of the women we serve are carrying big amounts of cash. They are food vendors, and they are catalog vending sellers. So they carry a lot of cash, and you maybe to insecurity, they demand more this product than health products. So yes, it is interesting always to see how data shows you sometimes that even if you think it's a wonderful product and that you're covering a need, a basic need, then the reality and the needs are somewhere in another area, So
we had one question from the chat around how long did the whole process take from, like, doing the research to rolling out some of these products? Is there, I'm sure it varies, but is there some sort of ideal timeline, time frame?
Yes, well, for the health coverages, I think we were working on this for a couple of years, because we had to find the insurance company that was willing to make and design a product like this, and with all these coverages, and also that was affordable for our entrepreneurs. So it took us a lot of time to find the insurance provider, and then it took us a lot of time as well to define it with them, because they had already their package, their insurance product already made for women, and we had to make them understand that wasn't what we needed, that we need to define everything from scratch, let's say. So yeah, it took us like a couple of years, and I think that with AgroMujer it was faster, also because we had a baseline study that we did with the network of microfinance institutions in Central America and in Dominican Republic, and they made a baseline study which showed that there was already a product, but only 18% of the women were hiring it. So it was very obvious that the institution had to develop a product specifically for women farmers, and I think it was less than a year, the whole procedure. So it depends, of course.
Okay, so I realize we're almost at the end. We have 4 minutes left, so
that was quick.
Yeah, that did go by quickly. So, I want to end on the question that I'm hoping that will carry through the series. If you had advice for other providers or those who are working on this, what would the advice be? What would you tell them that they should be looking at or doing? And Bamsi, if you can move to the next slide.
Yes, well,
Oh,
I think,
sorry.
yes, I think that first, you need to check for the needs of your clients and monitor the data. I mean, data is basic, and focus groups or baseline studies are essential. Then you have to do your market research, define the minimum viable product, and find the real needs and interest, and check. I mean, you have to check like twice and contrast the assumptions on their needs. You need to keep on checking on those. Then what I mentioned already, that you need to find an insurance company that is able to understand what you need and what it takes to develop a product for vulnerable women, and make it affordable. And not every insurance company has the same sensitivity. Let's say many insurance companies have they already packaged products, and it's a change of mentality to leave out whatever it is unnecessary for the clients, because many times it's not a matter of offering lots of coverages, because then clients get confused. It's to offer the coverages that they are really interested in. The fourth thing would be to have a holistic view of the household. Always think about products and services which are interesting. Well, they're interested in protecting their families. Women are interested in protecting their families, so you need to have this household and family well-being approach, and include coverages or services for the kids and parents. Then you also have to think that many times designing for women, remind that it doesn't exclude men, and that many men might be also interested in buying these products for their families and their wives. So they're also interested in these products as well. And then I would say that you need to be working very hard in the marketing strategy and the communication. It is also sometimes it's hard to name these products, or maybe these are an accident insurance with coverage, and maybe sometimes it won't work that well, because women might not be as interested in an accident insurance that a health coverage insurance. So I think that marketing and communication is also very, very relevant. Then train your bank agents on these products constantly or periodically in the characteristics and the value they have for the clients, and so they are able to translate these benefits to the female clients. And then also be checking for the results and the figures to make the adjustments in these products. You need to be checking what the coverage are mostly used, whether they're using it or not, and make their necessary adjustments to refine the product and services. So that would be my advice from our experience.
Thanks, Laura. I think that was all very useful, practical, actionable. I'd like to thank everyone who joined us. We would like your feedback on the webinar. So Bamsi is going to share a link to our evaluation. It won't take you more than a minute to fill it out. Please please do so. I think we got to most of the questions, but if we didn't, I have a list of the questions, so we will be sending out a recording of the webinar, the slides, and then any questions that we didn't answer here, we'll include it on the web page that, that will have the recording and the presentation. I hope this was useful, insightful, and if you have suggestions on other people we should feature or talk to, or any of you want to share your own work with us, please reach out to me directly. And thank you again, Laura, for sharing these insights. It sounds like some really interesting work has been done, and we're very happy to showcase this to the FinEquity community. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Nisha.
Don't forget to fill out the survey. We need to know how we did. We need data.
Yes.
All right.
We do.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much to all of you.
Thanks, everyone.